Okay, so this is where we left off last lesson. An average pregnancy, that's gestational period. So when you hear that term gestational, that's the time that it takes for a developing organism to be ready to be born. Okay, that's the gestation period. So animals have gestational periods that are much quicker than humans. They from conception to birth is usually much quicker in animals, let's say. Rabbits is very quick. Other animals are a lot shorter than 9 months. And for some larger animals, though, it's longer than 9 months too, probably. So that's what gestational period is. Babies can survive if they're born earlier, but they may have complications, and we talked a little bit about that. Obviously, this baby right here looks premature, very, very small, and I told you some stories about my son and his story. So as we move on, let's talk about trimesters, the first trimester. It's frozen? Sorry, in your notes there. Let's see, what are we looking at? Is the first 12 weeks of pregnancy, okay? So tri means 3. In high school, in a typical year, we have semesters. That's semi. Semi means in half, 2 parts, semi. So tri means 3 parts. So the 9-month pregnancy is split into 3 parts. The first trimester would be the first approximate 3 months. So the first 12 weeks of pregnancy is the first trimester. So the neural tube develops, as we saw in that video yesterday that we watched. The spine and the brain are among the first to develop. So that's the neural tube there. All body systems appear by 8 weeks, and it's then considered a fetus. Okay, so the name changes, around 8 weeks. Okay, so that's the first trimester, the first 12 weeks of pregnancy. A lot of times the woman doesn't know she's pregnant for the first few weeks. There are tests and things like that can be taken that sort of measure levels of hormones and things in your blood or in your urine, things like that. So that's what you hear, those pregnancy tests, right? You pee on the stick. Anybody heard that? So it actually measures the chemical levels in your urine and will tell you whether most likely your body is already working on creating another small human there. Okay, first trimester. All right. The second trimester. So the second trimester is the time period between 13 to 24 weeks. So it's kind of the next little while. Here's a picture at 14 weeks. So obviously, at 14 weeks already, this baby is already appearing like a baby. Many of the major, the body parts have already, formed and are recognizable. So we have eyelids already, the earbuds. We mentioned that the spinal and the brain are among the first. Also the olfactory, which is the sense of smell, and the inner ear as well is also among the first to develop. So that's pretty cool. And already, oftentimes before a woman is even realizing she's pregnant, this is sort of what the baby looks like. Yeah, pretty cool. And again, hopefully those of you that were absent yesterday because of the choir performance, hopefully you got a chance to watch that video. We're going to watch another video here today, very similar, but that one was pretty good. We've talked a lot about the details of development among this time. So it's 13 to 24 weeks is the second trimester. So 13 and 24, you want to fill in? This is when the most growth happens, and for sure it looks more like a baby. Some premature babies can survive at this stage. So they can survive at this stage. Anything before 24 weeks is the baby is not usually able to survive, but it can happen if the baby is born. It would obviously require lots of intervention, right? Lots of machines to help the baby continue to develop. It's quite amazing actually how inside the mother's womb, inside the mother is when this baby has the best chance of developing into a baby that's going to be able to survive once born. And even all the technology that we have is nothing compared to what should happen, naturally inside the mother. So if a baby is born and this baby is appearably, pretty small and premature, perhaps, and you can kind of see there I don't know if you can see that, but it looks like this is the umbilical cord still attached there, right there. And the doctor there, it looks like going to be cutting that. So yeah, the umbilical cord is literally cut after the baby is born, still attached to the mother. And sometimes, I'm not sure, yeah, sometimes they ask the fathers if they want to cut the umbilical cord. I'm like, I'm glad they didn't ask me. I'm like, nope, I'm not going to cut anything that's attached to my wife, thank you. She'll probably be upset with me. What if I miss and cut off an arm or something? No, you do it. You're the doctor. You do the surgery, please. Thank you. So the question is, would it bleed if it's cut off? That's a very good question. And it's clamped very hard near the baby, and it's cut off just beyond that clamp. So, and what happens to the other end of the umbilical cord, the mother? I don't think we'll talk too much about that, but obviously the umbilical cord is attached to the mother via the placenta. We talked a little bit about that yesterday. That's that amazing, basically amazing organ, or whatever you want to call it, that grows in pregnancy in order to allow the nutrients and the waste products between mom and baby to be exchanged. And so we learned about that in the video yesterday. And so what happens actually, and I don't know if you guys knew this. This was something new to me because, I'm a guy and I just didn't really know much. But when the baby is born, that's great, but the placenta also has to be delivered. So the placenta breaks away from the uterine wall once its job is done, and the mother has to basically push the placenta out as well. So the placenta has to be delivered as well because it can't stay in there. And so the umbilical cord is attached on the other end to the placenta, and I know that's probably kind of gross, but hey, that's what happens. So yeah, good question. Any other questions? All right. Third trimester. Wow. The third of 3. Okay, the third trimester. So the third trimester is from week 25 up until birth. And you got to turn your page in your notes there maybe. So week 25 until birth. The baby is kicking. The baby is rolling. The baby is stretching. There's a baby in there. I don't know if you guys have, if you have younger siblings or young enough that you would remember sort of this, perhaps that you remember seeing your mom's tummy move or feeling the tummy and feeling the baby move. It's quite amazing, actually, to feel a woman's stomach. I definitely wouldn't suggest you just go up to a random pregnant woman and grab her stomach, but if it's your mom or your wife or whatever, or if it's you, later in life, to feel that baby move around in there is pretty amazing. And actually, I remember my wife, kind of just laying on the couch or whatever with her belly exposed while she's pregnant, and I'm watching her belly, and I'm literally watching like lumps move around on the surface of her stomach. Like I can tell the baby is just swimming in there, right? Just unbelievable. It's like, wow, like there's this rumbling going on inside there, and this baby's doing laps around there. So kicking, rolling, stretching. Lungs mature, and as I mentioned earlier with my story and my son's story, he was born premature. So before the lungs were fully matured, he was born, and so he needed some help and some careful monitoring there as his lungs continued to develop for the last few weeks when he should have been still inside, but he wasn't quite ready to breathe yet. And as I mentioned yesterday, he was trying to breathe so hard that his lungs actually split, and he had a split in his lung, and because they weren't working quite right, so they had to do some stuff there. So as far as your blanks here, rotates to head down position unless the baby is breech. Okay, let's talk about this for a bit. I'm not sure if you realize this or not, but if you have a largely pregnant woman that's in the third trimester, the baby is to be moving to this position where the baby's upside down, where the head is, at the cervix kind of spot there, right? We learned about the cervix is right here. So the baby is rotating and kind of gets into this position. Now, if the baby is not in this position, it's not ideal, it's not good. If the head is up here and the legs or feet are down here, that's not the optimal position. The head is to be birthed first, so they can get the head out and make sure that the baby is cleaned up and starts breathing. And yeah, there's partial, in the midst of being born, the baby's head is just sticking out. and then the rest of the body, it's pretty easy for the rest of the body to be delivered. But if it's upside down, baby's upside down, and a leg comes out or a hand comes out first, then that's alarming, because it's difficult. I mean, I don't know all the details, but I mean, literally, if the doctor has to help pull the baby out, you're pulling the arms, and the head is stuck in there, and that's not good to be pulling on the body with the heads being stuck. There's a lot of damage that can be done, obviously. So that's a tricky thing. If it's breech, a lot of times nowadays, thankful for modern technology, they can see that with the ultrasound, and they kind of prepare for that. And so, as I mentioned the other day, a C-section, a cesarean section, is when literally they cut the mom's stomach down pretty low, and they basically take the baby out through the stomach. And so it's not a natural vaginal birth. A cesarean section comes out basically from here. And if the baby's upside down, there's going to be a risk in delivery for the mother and the baby, then they'll often schedule a surgery, the C-section. Yeah, so that's what breech is. Breech is the wrong way. All right, childbirth. So when the baby is ready to be delivered, hey guys, turn on. When the baby's ready to be delivered, labor, good word for it. Labor is the term for, when the mother is actually pushing the baby out. So you remember the uterus, right? Obviously the baby is growing in the uterus, it's expanding, that's why the mom's tummy looks like it's getting big and everything. So the baby's inside the uterus. And of course there are muscles all around, and so uterine contractions begin. You've heard the term contractions. Oh, my contractions are getting closer and closer together. So as the time draws near for the baby to be pushed out, your body kind of knows that this is the time. And these contractions are, like there's pushes and there's contractions. So when a woman is giving birth, the contractions are the body's actual, the muscles squeezing together to like push this baby out. And then when the mother is actually pushing, she is also contracting her abdominal muscles to kind of help this along. So it's like everything is getting squeezed so the baby pops out. And it can be very painful, very, very painful, and when all this is happening. And obviously the actual exit of the baby is painful as well. This is a rather large object to be pushed through a fairly small sort of opening. And so, yeah, it's quite the thing. So uterine contractions begin in labor, contractions. The cervix dilates to 10 centimeters. So remember the cervix. The cervix is this area, this right here, fully effaced. So when it's effaced, that means it's thinned out, and it starts to kind of contract and pull away from the where the baby's head is there towards the opening of the vaginal opening. And so dilation means there's literally like space. This thing kind of opens up, and 10 centimeters is kind of the maximum sort of opening for the cervix. And then the baby has to kind of get pushed through there. So, I mean, I don't know how much detail you want, probably not too much, but I've been around for 4 of my own children's births and the cow story that I told you, so 5 in total. But yeah, I'm not sure what I was going to say. Oh yeah, there's some definitely things that happen down there that are not very pleasant. But a lot of times the baby has to be pulled. A lot of times there's different tools that the doctors use to pull the baby out too if it's not coming. One of my personal favorites, I guess, is the big. It's like a big vacuum cleaner, like a big suction machine, and they like basically clamp onto the baby's head once the baby's head is exposed, and it's like this big, huge suction, and they just like pull it out. It like literally sucks the baby out. There's also these big metal forceps, like big metal tongs, and you like slide that in over the baby's head and like squeeze on the baby's head and use the tongs to pull the baby out. Yep. Yeah, and sometimes that opening is just really not naturally big enough for the baby to come through. So some things have to happen for that baby to come through. Either a natural tear, or sometimes the doctor surgically makes that opening a little bit bigger so the baby can come through. But also you probably don't think about it much, but even the pelvis, like the pelvic bones, like that birth canal opening, we're built, women and men and women, but we're built to have that opening. And our muscles actually, loosen up, and the joints actually can expand to let this baby pass through. So it's not just muscles and ligaments and things like that, but it's also the actual bone structure down there. And a lot of times there's things related to childbirth too, when there's the pelvis or those kind of joints kind of get stretched quite a bit, and so there's a lot of sort of things that are moving parts down there. Anyways, okay, so the actual birth, when the baby exits the body here, the uterus pushes the baby through the vaginal canal. Okay, so the uterus pushes, that's your blank, through the vaginal canal. The placenta, I mentioned that earlier, the placenta is delivered after the baby. So in this diagram here, the placenta is, this kind of organ. I'm calling it an organ. I think it's an organ, I'm not sure, but it's connected to the umbilical cord, which was connected to the baby, obviously, and has been severed. And so this has to come out as well. Obviously, it's quite a bit easier to deliver that than the baby. But a cesarean section, which we also mentioned, it's nicknamed kind of a C-section, is a surgery that cuts through the uterus to deliver the baby if it cannot be born vaginally. So we talked about that earlier as well. Okay, so in these diagrams, baby's getting ready to go here. The cervix is open to the 10 centimeters, kind of from, so you can see this from here to here. So the baby's head is showing, and the doctor will say, yeah, I see a head, I see a head. Okay, good. That's good. The baby's got a head. That's good. And then so the uterus, the umbilical cord is here, and the placenta is back here. So this is the interface there between baby and mom, and then as the baby kind of gets ready to go here in the second B stage here, the head is delivered, and so the baby starts to come out, and then often they'll kind of pause here because the neck is pretty small compared to the head, right? And so they'll often kind of pause here and make sure the nose is cleaned out and clean the baby off a little bit so that he or she can kind of start breathing. And I don't know. It was all pretty traumatic for me too. So I was kind of at the other end. I was at the my wife's head end, going, "Yes, honey, you're awesome. You can do this. Good job. Keep pushing. You're great. I love you. You're the best." Stuff like that. That was kind of my job. It's just like, yeah, I'm not really down this end. I'm up in this end over here. So. So let's move to the third step C. So here's the placenta is detaching after childbirth. And again, your body just, I guess, knows, when that needs to come out. Once the blood flow stops, it probably doesn't take long after that before the placenta is like, okay, my job is done. But anyways, it starts to detach, and then it has to be delivered as well. So, yeah. Questions? Yeah. There's things that people do with placentas. I don't know. Yeah. Notice this though. I don't know if you guys are noticing. This is like the anal opening here. So the vaginal opening and the anal opening are different. I think we know that. You don't poop out a baby. All right. Okay. I don't know if you knew that. The anal opening is connected to the intestines and stuff, where your waste product kind of comes out. So there are two different openings there. If you didn't know that, now you know that. Okay. Your life will be the better for it, I'm sure now. All right. Okay, a little note here too. Pain of childbirth. If we look at the scriptures, Genesis 3:16 does mention childbirth as part of a consequence of sin in the world. Genesis 3:16 said, "To the woman he said, I will surely multiply your pain in childbearing. In pain you shall bring forth children." So a lot of this birth pain is, apparently a consequence of sin in the world and things like that, and more directly to the sin of rebellion in the garden. So little scripture there for you as well. All right, pain management. Let's talk about pain management, since there is a lot of pain associated with childbirth, and perhaps at one point maybe that wasn't the intention, but there is a lot of pain in childbirth. So how do you manage the pain? There are different ways that can happen. The main way is an epidural anesthesia. So epidural, you may have heard of this, and again, I don't know how much you guys know. If you have a a younger sibling that's quite a bit younger than you, maybe you remember this, some of the details of a birth process from a younger sibling, or maybe from a niece or nephew or something. But anyway, I learned a lot of this when I actually had kids of my own, so if you don't know much, that's okay. But an epidural is the most popular form of pain relief during labor, and it's basically, yeah, it doesn't really say here, but it's basically this huge honking needle that goes into the spinal area there. It's like this huge needle. It's like huge. I don't know if it's that big, but it's like big, and it's inserted into kind of the spinal area to numb like basically half the woman's body here. So this is all numb so that the pain of all this, expansion and contraction and all of these moving parts, yeah, it's quite traumatic. It hurts. Like if you smack yourself in the arm, right? You punch yourself in the arm, that hurts, right? Well, think about all this trauma to internal, muscles all going on at once. And so more than 50% of women giving birth in hospitals use epidural anesthesia. More than, what does it say, 50 here? So blank 50% there. Its purpose is to block nerve impulses from the lower spinal segments. What were you going to say? Were you going to say something?
Oh, I think my cousin, she used like the epidural, and she said it felt like it works.
It relaxed her quite a bit, yeah.
She said it works super well.
Yeah, that's right. Epidurals work. That's true. Oh, of course. Yeah. I mean, does each person experience, the effects of an epidural differently? Well, every person is different. I think because our systems are so much the same, and the structure and the body plan, the nerves and all that is very much the same. There would probably be very little variance, I think, between the effects. But yes, I'm sure that the epidural wouldn't really take for some people, like it wouldn't affect much. And to be honest with you, sometimes it's too late in the birth process to have the epidural. And so they're very careful when this is administered. My wife, for all 4 of her kids, had no epidural. She delivered so quickly. She didn't have any drugs. She's pretty amazing, actually, when it comes to childbirth. Like people often said to her, man, you were just made to have babies. Like it happened really quick, and it happened fairly painless. The doctors, she's like in between contractions, she's like literally reading a book. Like, and they're like, are you not in like excruciating pain? She's like, no, just tell me when to push. So for most of it, at the very end, when the baby actually comes out, this is a problem for everyone. So she was really getting into it then. But as far as the labor process, yeah, she didn't need epidurals, which is a real blessing. But yeah, so it's probably slightly different effectiveness for sure. But for the most part, it does its job and has a big effect, yeah. But like I say, sometimes it's too late in the birth process to actually have an epidural. So. Okay, so this is the video we're going to watch. I'll have the link on my website. We're going to watch this here video now. Pregnancy Chat is the channel, and this is how we're going to end off this video here. So, any questions before we leave the notes and watch the video? Any questions from you guys?